YouTube, it's Justin, aka Demonic Sweaters. Today we're taking a look at this Roland CY-8 dual zone electronic cymbal. And these things are pretty cool, actually. I picked one up. You can find them for very cheap, used. I got this one for $60 with free shipping, which is a really good price for a dual zone cymbal. You know, it's kind of small. It's a 12-inch. It's not tiny, but it's not really big either. I used to have a 14-inch over here that was a Pintech, but it was a single zone, so it had a little less features than the dual zone CY-8. Now, a couple of things about the CY-8 that's really cool. Well, for one, it's two zones. You have a zone here when you hit it on the top, and then you also have a zone on the edge. You could use this as a ride cymbal or a crash cymbal, but it's going to work a little bit better as a crash cymbal, in my opinion, because you can get two different crash sounds out of it, or a splash and a crash sound if you want. If you're using it as a ride, you're only going to have the surface and the edge, so the bell would either be assigned to the edge or the surface, or you don't have to use a bell. You could have, you know, a bow sound and then an edge sound of a ride, which will work pretty well. And it is also chokeable, which is a really cool feature. And like I said, these things are pretty cheap. I'll post some links down below. You can get them new. I think they're around $115, $120, something like that. And then used, you can usually find them for about $60. So I'll post some links down below for both. One other thing you might want to get, though, if you get one of these, is Roland makes something called a no spin or a spin stopper, which is basically this thing up here. It's a little metal piece that screws onto the cymbal stand that works with this shape down here to keep the cymbal in place and keep it from spinning when you're playing. Now, another thing, too, because I know I'm going to get this question, is no, this will not work with an Alesis Nitro mesh or an Alesis Surge. Well, it'll work, but it's not going to work the same way it would on my kit, which is a Roland TD8 module. If you plug this into an Alesis Nitro, you're only going to get the surface sound. You're not going to get an edge sound. And the reason is because the Alesis Nitro modules are only single zone cymbals. The weird thing about those modules is actually all the toms are dual zone, even though they only ship with single zone toms. You could plug in a dual zone tom. Now you may be thinking, why can't I just plug this into the Tom 4 input on the Alesis Nitro module? That's because Tom dual zone triggers that Alesis makes are different than dual zone cymbals that Roland makes. The Roland cymbals have a piezo or piezo, or however you say it, up here on the surface, and then on the edge there's something called a FSR or a switch type mechanism that causes the triggering to happen on the edge. So it's different than something like a dual zone tom or a dual zone snare. It just works in a different way. So you can't use this in that Tom 4 input on the Alesis Nitro. If you are looking for another cymbal to add to your Alesis Nitro, I recommend something like this, which is a Pintech PC series single zone crash cymbal, and these things are very inexpensive and they trigger really, really well. They're not chokeable, but neither is the expansion cymbal input on the Alesis Nitro module anyway, so it doesn't matter. These things will work just great. Either the Pintech PC or TC series are both very inexpensive cymbals so you can use on your Alesis Nitro module. So anyway, the CY-8, I don't know why it's called the CY-8. You know, it's 12 inches. I'm sure there's a reason that Roland has for that. But it's a little misleading. When you see CY-8 written, you might think that it's an 8-inch cymbal, which would be tiny. So 12-inch really isn't that bad, and actually this thing's made really well. It actually is made better than you'd think when you see the photos of these. It's actually, you know, it's pretty heavy. It's got like a heavy-duty front on it right here, and then the back is thinner, so I think that's how they cut the cost compared to their more expensive cymbals, but it still triggers absolutely excellently, and especially this top zone, you can actually get some pretty realistic sounding cymbal swells out of this thing. So let me go ahead and demo some playing with this thing, and you guys can see how well this actually triggers, and it's just a really good little cymbal pad, and they're not very expensive, so let's go ahead and see some playing. Alright, that's the Roland CY-8 dual zone cymbal pad. I highly recommend these things, and like I said, there's some links down below if you want to pick one up for yourself. But keep in mind, if you have an Alesis Nitro or an Alesis Surge, this probably isn't the cymbal for you. But if you do have a Roland or a different drum module that supports Roland type crashes, then you could use the CY-8. Anyway, thanks for watching everybody, and have a great day.